Authenticity is really just being the person that you feel like you are at your soul level, at your core, and doing that, following who you are by aligning your actions with your values and disregarding what people are saying about you. Like, if they don't think you're capable of doing something, we're disregarding that. We're not letting that affect us at our core, because that is not who we are, because we know what we are capable of, and we authentically move in that, again, align with our values and the things that we cherish every single day. And I will say that authenticity, being your authentic self, is not reserved for a certain type of person, for a certain group of people. Anybody can live in their authenticity. It just takes getting into that like discomfort in order to remove like blockages and insecurities that you have, things that are holding you back. That can be uncomfortable. So, not everyone might be led to a life of doing that, because it takes work, and it takes, like I said, being uncomfortable. It takes owning and accepting when you have not been your best self, and reconciling with that, basically. So not everybody wants to do it, but it is for every single person. Everybody can do this. You don't have to have like a degree. You don't have to be a certain age to do this. You can do this at any time. And I also think, which I will get more into, that when we are younger, we are our more authentic selves. And I think as we grow up and people sort of tell us who we should be, what we should be doing, we can lose a bit of that authenticity. So this is really my tips and stuff. I have 10 tips and 10 like little prompts to go through, and these are things that I've asked myself, and I continue to ask myself, even some days where I find myself straying a little bit too far from who I know that I am, or that when I start like comparing myself to other people and stuff like that. So these are the things that I ask myself. Feel free to write them down. I'm going to go through them one by one. But before we get into them, a little introduction. I am Julia. I am your guide to living in your authenticity and to being who you know that you are at your core, at your, as your genuine self. And like I said, it's taken me, this has been my journey like the past almost year now, just being unwaveringly confidently myself, no matter what anybody says is like weird or crazy or like doing whatever. I continue to stick through that, and I've built like a sense of confidence where it doesn't bother me anymore. It annoys me more than anything, but it's not going to make me change who I am. So if you are on that path and you want to be living in a life where you are just unfazed by what people are telling you, these might help you. I think these will definitely help you, but it might lead to other things, but I think these are a good jumping off point. So, number 1, what do you value? Personally, I value honesty. I value silence. I value people who can just sit in like a situation and be quiet and not have to fill it with noise and talking. I value integrity, honesty, determination, a good sense of humor, like a dry sense of humor, and a childlike curiosity for life. I think that is also very important. And, just for me, these are my values. Your values can differ. They can overlap, but it's whatever you value personally for yourself and your life and the people around you, the relationships that you want to have. And one way I recognized what my values were was seeing the things that I cared about, and also the people around me, what they cared about and how they were sort of acting, and if it was in a way that was aligned with what I liked and how it made me feel. If I was around somebody who I thought was like being mean to, like a bug. I really love bugs, and I don't really like being mean to bugs unless it is a bee, because I'm allergic to bees. But anyhow, that's different. But, if somebody was just like, just being mean, and, I don't really value people who are being mean, or like when people are mean. And so that really opened my eyes to something that I value. I value kindness, and I value compassion and understanding. So sometimes being in situations where you are unhappy can teach you the things that you value in the places that you want to be in that do make you happy. So that is one way to kind of flip the script, because if you're anything like me, I've been in a lot of situations that were more unhappy than happy for most of my life. And I really had to get myself out of that by figuring out the opposite, doing what would make me happy. So yes, so really think about that. Think about your values. That is the first tip. The second tip is, the second question basically, what are your interests? What are the things you're interested in? It could be movies, TV shows, television. It could be books. you know, you could be really interested in fashion. You could be really interested in costume design and learning more about that. You could be really interested in like Tony Hawk and like skateboarding, stuff like that. But, you know, really write those down. I personally am really interested in like horror movies, all that kind of stuff, horror, anything, horror movies, TVs, books, because I really love that. The scarier the better. I just love it. And that is going to lead us into our third question. What are your hobbies? And these can overlap. I'm sure they will overlap with your interests, because, you know, when I'm interested in jewelry, I am also a jewelry artist. So, you know, those two obviously overlap. I'm interested in gemstones, and I work a lot with gemstones, primarily with that in my jewelry. So your interests and your hobbies are going to overlap, but write them down. Write down the things that you love, the things that you love to do. You know, maybe you like a certain topic and you love reading, so you are reading about a certain topic. Whatever it is for you, just make sure it is genuinely something that you find joy in. And again, if it's something that you find hard to really nail down, or you find hard to list, because there were times of my life, like in college, where, you know, it would be like the first day of school and we'd be asked like what we like and what we enjoy and the things, you know, about ourselves. And I didn't know how to answer, because I knew things that irritated me, but I had to flip that and figure out the things that I liked. So if you're anything like that, try to think about the things that you don't like and the things that you're not interested in, and then the things you can't stand, and try to flip that and figure out the opposite to figure out what you do like and the things that you can stand. So moving on to the fourth question. What were your favorite hobbies as a kid? And like I was talking about in the beginning of this video, sometimes, honestly, probably more than we realize, the things that we liked as a kid are the things that we truly, genuinely, at our core, enjoy. Before anybody was telling us that something was lame, that something was stupid, something was crazy, something was just like, you know, just whatever they were saying about us. But when you're little, maybe, you know, like 5, 6 years old, what are those things that you love to do? Even as a kid, I used to take apart some of my jewelry to put them back together. And that was just something that I always, you know, loved doing as a kid. I loved doing that, and now I love doing it as an adult. And yeah, just making sure I talked about all my notes. Again, if you're new, I write down all my notes just so I know how to come back to it and what to reflect on. But yeah, and this might lead me into other things, but and into another topic in general. But sometimes the things that we loved as a kid and the ways that we were treated as a kid can really show us where certain insecurities evolved, and, you know, where those began. Because I think when we're a kid, like I was saying, that we love things, and we can love things loudly without and before anybody is telling us that it's stupid. And I think the more we lean into those things, and the more we accept those things about ourselves and learn to accept them, especially as adults when we are taught not to accept those things, that is where you can like really come back to yourself and be yourself authentically, which is all of this. That's what all of this is about. And moving on to number 5, question number 5, when do you feel most fulfilled and happy? And second part of that, how long ago was it? So you could be like, if you're a hairstylist, you could really love doing people's hair. And, you know, the last time you felt fulfilled was yesterday when you were in the salon. So it could be, you know, anything like that. It could also be like you feel fulfilled when you are just cleaning the dishes, cleaning the house, cleaning the kitchen at the end of the day. And you just have your like quiet time. And, you know, maybe that also makes you think of what you value. You value quiet time, and you value time to yourself. All of these things can kind of connect with each other, and I think the more you go into the prompts and the more that comes out while you're thinking of them, you can really learn a lot about yourself, again, in all of these different areas and aspects. And yeah, I want to give an example for myself for each of these, but I don't want to get too, you know, too into that, because I could keep going for a long time. But just make sure that you are focusing on the times that you feel fulfilled, where you will also feel accomplished, you will feel energized, you will feel excited, and also like peaceful, like you are doing something that is resonating with you at the core. I feel like that is how I define something that makes you feel fulfilled, is that I feel like it is just a feeling. We can really go off of our feelings, and our feelings can tell us a lot about who we are and where, we are in relation to what aligns with us, and how we can get back to ourselves. Is that, when you're doing something that is right for you, it's just going to feel right. It's going to feel peaceful. You're not going to have any, like what if feelings and thoughts. It's just going to naturally align with you. So yeah, that was number 5. When did you feel most fulfilled and happy? And how long ago was it? And that goes into number 6. When do you feel most upset and angry, and how long ago was it? It could be a time where you were overlooked or talked over. And it could be a time where you were ignored, or, just something happened to me. I think it was like a couple of days ago. I was asked how I was doing, and before I could even answer that, the person had moved on to talking about something else. Like, I was in the middle of answering how I was doing, and they just interrupted me, was impatient. So that is something that I don't value, is impatience, and just like rushing and cutting off people to the point where, I think sometimes we can get excited. There's a nuance to cutting somebody off, and especially if you're going back and forth and you're both excited about something, I can understand that. But yeah, like asking somebody a question, not even waiting for their response and just moving on to something else, I feel like that is just rude. So again, that brought me back to things that I value and I don't value. I value kindness and understanding and patience. And I don't really value disrespect and rudeness and just cutting off people to, because you want to talk about something else. That was something that upset me, and that was a couple days ago. So your answer will definitely be different, probably be different. And I just feel like the more that sometimes I listen to things, it's like people really do cut other people off a lot. And there's a lot of like impatient people. I noticed at the grocery store, I noticed that like just all over the place. I feel like we could really learn a lot by just being quiet and being steady and, really doing things a little bit slower. But that is just my observation in that's another thing that upsets me. But moving on, definitely write your things that upset you and make you angry and things like that, because again, that will teach you a lot about your values. It'll teach you more about yourself too. And number 7, what are your insecurities? And this one can be difficult. It can be uncomfortable to get through, but it is necessary to acknowledge these insecurities, to work through them and figure out if they were even yours to carry in the first place. Excuse me. And when I was also saying about childhood, sometimes we could trace our insecurities back. If you really think about it, if you're like, okay, this thing affected me when I was in college. It also affected me when I was in high school. It affected me, maybe not all of middle school. So what happened in middle school that made me feel insecure about this thing about myself? And you can really trace an insecurity back to its origin, and then also be able to take it out, take it out of your life and rectify that and be like, you know what? That insecurity came about because of something that somebody else said to me. It wasn't actually how I felt about myself. And I feel like that is how a lot of insecurities are. They're not things that we actually feel about ourselves. They are things that we are taught and told about ourselves because certain things, to other people weren't acceptable about us. So I think thinking about your insecurities can be tough. It could be like, you hate the way your arm looks, that you hate the length of your neck, like whatever it is, try to write that down and figure out where that came from. If you actually feel that way about yourself and why you feel that way about yourself. And I have another video I'm going to post after this about insecurities and getting rid of them, is that insecurities stem from us comparing ourselves to other people, us making somebody else the gold standard for our own lives. And when you remove that, when you make yourself the center, when you center yourself in your own life, you shouldn't have an insecurity because you are just your standard. You are the only one that you should be comparing yourself to, and that is just it. And yeah, for number 7, just think about when you started feeling insecure about certain things in your personality, in your interests, and whatever it is. And think about, just how you were before that, when you were just walking around with all the confidence in the world and you didn't really think that there was anything wrong with you, because there isn't, and you shouldn't feel that way. And And again, like I was saying at the beginning, this is for anybody. Anybody can, do that deep dive into their insecurities. Not everybody might want to, but everybody has the ability to. So it can be tough to think about your insecurities. It definitely was tough for me, but I'm at the point now where I am not insecure about anything. Yes, I like doing my hair. I like dressing up. I enjoy dressing up. Again, that is one of my interests. And, I love doing my makeup. I love like the colors and all the things like that, but that is not a necessity because I feel secure in myself without all of those things. So that is the point to get to remove your insecurities and blockages to a point where you feel completely secure, authentic, and genuine in who you are. And question number 8, when have you acted out of ego or out of hurt that hurt somebody else? And this one also might be tough too, but it is recognizing and rectifying the times, where we have hurt others intentionally and unintentionally, whether you meant to or not. And it allows us to accept ourselves, forgive ourselves, and love ourselves for all of our mistakes and our faults, because we're not perfect. And sometimes, like all of us, we act out of emotions. We act out of wanting to get revenge on somebody. We act out of, not wanting to be wrong, wanting to sit in our ego and our pride. We all do that at some point, but it is also learning, recognizing, and forgiving ourselves, which will get us one step closer to building this personality and confidence that you have in yourself that nobody can take away, which is the point of all of this. We are just trying to build that confidence in ourselves that, nobody can tell you anything, and accepting the times, like I said, in number 8, where you were doing something maybe to hurt somebody, you were doing something, like they say, hurt people. And I feel like at the core, that is very true. And it's also recognizing the times where you were hurt and you wanted to hurt somebody else, or you were walking around hurt and, not really realizing it, but also taking this time now to accept that and to move on from that. Again, like I said, some of these prompts can be really difficult, but I think the next 2 are okay, but we'll see. Number 9, the question is, when have you let others be the main character of your story? Think back to a time where you made another person more important than yourself in your life. Like when you were dating somebody else and you just thought they were just the bee's knees and you thought they were amazing. You put them on a pedestal higher than yourself. You made them more important than yourself in your own life. Or it could be in a situation where you just wanted everybody to be happy, even if it was at the expense of your own happiness. So you were basically putting those people above you. And I feel like, I think that can be tough, especially even with kids, like having kids and, having younger kids. And I feel like that is nuanced as well. It's not exactly maybe putting somebody above you, because you're also making sure that, at some point you got to make sure that you're getting your rest, and you might be tired all the time. And I feel like obviously that is part of like having kids and stuff like that. And also thinking about another person as well. But in other situations where it is truly just like unhealthy and it's unreciprocated, when were you putting other people as the main character in your own life and the main character in your story? Because we should each be number 1 in our own lives. And if we're not, then your life is being lived for somebody else. And again, I think it is different when you have kids, or when you're like, it's understandable when you're trying to live in the memory of somebody else, like somebody who passed, and you're just doing things in their memory and stuff like that. But just make sure that you are still always pulling the strings, that those decisions are always up to you, that no matter what you are, you're in the driver's seat, no matter what decision you are making, that decision is up to you. And number 10 for the last one, and this one is the most fun one. This one, I wanted to leave it on a lighthearted note. But it is, what do you love about yourself? And you should make this list long. This one also might be difficult too, because I feel like if you are programmed to not like things about yourself, it might be hard to think about things that you do like about yourself. So again, you can flip that. If somebody is telling you that you are, ugly, stupid, whatever, try to flip that and see yourself from a different aspect. And the things on this list could include something that is internal or something that is external. It could be, you know, you love how you laugh. You love the face you make when you laugh. You love like your teeth. You love something internal like your determination, your ambition, your even like your affection towards animals. And it could even be your courage here right now to come face to face with your shadows, because not everybody even acknowledges the parts of themselves that have done damage and that have not, you know, been their best selves. So like I said, not everybody is going to choose this path, but you should be really proud of yourself for doing that and for wanting better for yourself. And yeah, for recognizing the times, the difficult times, the uncomfortable times, like I've gone through in all of these prompts, that you weren't your best self and that you could have been better. But yeah, so overall, those were the 10 questions. And those are really meant for like a jumping off point to getting deeper into other things. And these are things that I've asked myself throughout my healing journey this past year. And, you know, just trying to be my best self and recognizing, you know, my patterns and really getting honest and knowing myself at such a deep level that it just, you know, nobody could really tell me anything about myself. I could, you know, be reminded of a time where I wasn't my best, and I was like, you know, I already reflected on that 2 weeks ago. So good try, but I'm already comfortable with that, and I've accepted that about myself. And yeah, as soon as you own every facet and version of yourself, like I had to, that's when you've created a sense of self that no one can break down. You'll have a strong foundation that aligns with your soul to then strive for your desires and to build a life that feels perfectly for you. That is the point. We are trying to get to ourselves at our core so we can genuinely live the life that we feel called to do. Whether that is like living on a beach somewhere, it's just you and you've got like a remote job, and you know, you might go down to like work a couple shifts at the village down at the stores in the village downtown. I don't even know what it is. It could be something like that. Or you can be in a big bustling city and you love your corporate job. It could be whatever it is that feels authentic to you. But when you are doing that, when you are living for yourself, you won't feel the need to ask for permission to be yourself or to ask permission for what decisions you need to make, because the blocks will be removed for you to follow your soul's calling. And, you know, that's what we were doing. That is with all these prompts. We are removing the blocks, the insecurities, the things in our way that are stopping ourselves from being our best selves. Because the center of your life should be you. And after you go through these prompts, you are going to become the center of your life. And no one can take that away from you. That is the point. You are building a radical sense of self-confidence, of self-worth, and authenticity, generosity that nobody can change, nobody can alter, because you have that core strong foundation that you've built for yourself that, you know, is just completely unshakable. So I hope that was helpful. I also have my blog every Monday. I will have it on the video, obviously, that I have my blog in the description if you want to read it. If you also want to go back to these prompts at any point, you can look at my description for the blog. I have them written out one by one. And that is that for today. Again, like I said, in my next video, I'm going to talk about how I got rid of my insecurities. It is pretty much, you know, it's just a one-page thing, because it is after you've gone through these prompts and you've talked about your insecurities, it becomes so much easier to just get rid of them. And I'm going to talk about that more in my next video. So if that is something that you want to see, stick around, like and subscribe if you want to, you know, stay connected. But that is it. And I will see you next time, I hope. Bye for now.